The snow fell in heavy, deliberate flakes, each one like a tiny whisper from the sky, landing on the shoulders of a man who had everything, but felt nothing. Standing in the middle of a crowded park on New Year's Eve, amidst families laughing, couples kissing, and strangers exchanging warm wishes, he looked completely alone. His tailored coat couldn't shield him from the biting cold that wasn't just in the air, it was inside him. The countdown was minutes away. Fireworks were already being loaded. But he, the famous CEO known for billion-dollar deals and ruthless takeovers, stood still, staring at a child's balloon tangled in a leafless tree, his heart sinking deeper than the temperature around him. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the magic of unexpected connections, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Stories Collection. This is a story you won't forget. Nathaniel Blackstone was the kind of man the world read about in glossy business magazines, young, handsome, commanding, and surrounded by power. But behind every photograph, every powerful speech, every award, there was a shadow. A hollow echo of something he once had but lost. His mother had died when he was young, his father drowned in alcohol, and his only brother passed away during a New Year's Eve snowstorm 5 years ago, the same kind of storm now dancing around him like a cruel reminder. Nathaniel had tried to bury his grief under mansions, private jets, and a calendar booked 3 years in advance. But when he woke up that morning in his penthouse, greeted by silence, and not a single soul who truly knew him, he realized his empire was just a golden prison. He walked out. No bodyguards. No car. Just him. Wandering the streets of the city he helped shape with his money, now a ghost haunting his own kingdom. He ended up in a small park where families gathered for the city's annual fireworks. He leaned against a cold iron lamppost, his breath visible as clouds, his soul aching without words. He didn't even hear the small footsteps approach until a soft voice cut through the snow like a bell. "You look sad, mister," said a tiny girl, no more than 7, wearing a bright pink coat and mismatched mittens. Her face was round and warm, her eyes like melted chocolate, curious, sincere. Nathaniel blinked, not used to people talking to him without an appointment. He stared at her, stunned into silence. She didn't wait for a reply. "Wanna meet my mommy?" she asked, smiling up at him like he was just another lonely friend at the playground. He didn't know why, but something inside him cracked, a part of him so tightly locked for years. He found himself nodding. The girl grabbed his hand like they'd known each other forever. "She makes the best hot cocoa," she added cheerfully as she led him past the crowd, down an alley lit with cheap fairy lights and into a tiny cafe tucked between 2 buildings. The sign read, "Maggie's Corner, home is a cup away." Inside, it was warm, not just in temperature, but in feeling. The walls were painted in soft yellows, old jazz music played faintly, and the air smelled of cinnamon and something like safety. Behind the counter was a woman in her mid-30s, sleeves rolled up, flour dusting her cheek, hair tied in a loose bun. She looked up, and the world paused. Her eyes met Nathaniel's and something unreadable passed between them. Not recognition of the famous CEO, but a quiet understanding of loneliness. "This is the sad mister," her daughter announced proudly, pointing at him. "Can we give him cocoa?" The woman chuckled, wiping her hands. "Of course. Everyone deserves warmth on New Year's Eve." Nathaniel sat down in a corner, and the little girl climbed into the seat beside him, chattering like they were old friends. He didn't speak much, he just listened, absorbing the hum of a life that felt real. Maggie, the woman behind the counter, brought him a mug. "No charge," she said softly. "Sadness should never have to pay." For the first time in years, Nathaniel sipped something that didn't burn or numb, it comforted. He looked around. The place had mismatched furniture, handwritten menus, and a wall of photos of local customers with smiling faces. One photo caught his eye, an old man in a wheelchair with the little girl beside him. "That was my dad," Maggie said, catching his gaze. "We lost him last year. This place was his dream." Nathaniel felt a lump rise in his throat. Her story was filled with struggle. She was a single mom, trying to keep her father's dream alive. The cafe barely survived. They couldn't afford big promotions. But she gave free meals on Christmas, delivered pastries to the local shelter, and always saved a plate for anyone who looked like they needed more than just food. That night, he stayed until the fireworks exploded outside. But he didn't look at the sky. He looked at Maggie and her daughter, and for the first time in a long time, he felt grounded. The next morning, before sunrise, he returned, not as the lost man from the night before, but as someone who wanted to give back. Quietly, he arranged a renovation for the cafe, hired staff for her, and told his team to never reveal his name. He started showing up weekly, not in suits, but in flannels, helping in the kitchen, taking out the trash, reading stories to the little girl. Days turned into weeks, and something beautiful bloomed, something not even billions could buy. Love, not the romantic movie kind, but the healing, slow, real kind. Maggie never cared who he was, she cared how he treated her daughter, how he listened, how he stayed. On the next New Year's Eve, the cafe was full. Laughter, music, cocoa overflowing. And Nathaniel stood behind the counter, apron on, smiling. The little girl tugged his sleeve and said, "You don't look sad anymore." He knelt down and whispered, "That's because I met your mommy." Viewers, if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that even the coldest souls can find warmth in the most unexpected places, please like, comment, and subscribe to Stories Collection. Share this video with someone who needs hope this new year. Speech balloon special request. In the comments, tell us, what small act of kindness changed your life or someone else's? We'd love to hear your story. Absolutely. Here's the continuation and deepening of the story to reach the emotional and cinematic length suitable for a full 6,000-word YouTube video, while keeping the same heartwarming tone and depth. The days that followed that New Year's Eve became the unexpected beginning of something Nathaniel hadn't even known he needed. He returned to Maggie's corner not as a benefactor, not even as a CEO, just as a man rediscovering what it meant to be human. Each morning, he'd wake up earlier than his executive meetings required, put on old sneakers and a hoodie, and take the long walk through the city's quieter streets to the cafe where the walls didn't echo with pressure, but with life. At first, he told himself it was just about the cocoa. Then, it was about the kid, Lila. She'd sit on the counter with her toy giraffe, asking him the silliest, most profound questions. Do grown-ups forget how to play? Why do some people look rich but feel poor? One morning, as she colored on a napkin, she asked, "Do you like my mommy?" And Nathaniel, caught mid-sip, blinked as the words settled in his chest like a confession. He nodded. Very much. But it was Maggie who drew him in without trying. Her quiet strength. The way she comforted elderly regulars who couldn't afford coffee. How she slipped pastries into paper bags and left them near bus stops with handwritten notes. "You are seen. You matter." He'd watched her bandage a burn on a teenager's hand without asking why he was crying. She had a kindness that wasn't loud, but constant. She didn't talk about her struggles unless asked. She didn't need pity, she needed partnership. The kind that came without strings or branding. Nathaniel began spending less time in boardrooms and more time learning how to sweep floors properly. One Thursday, when the cafe's heater failed, he rolled up his sleeves, bought tools, and fixed it himself, covered in dust but grinning like a kid who'd just built something that mattered. In truth, he was falling. Not just for Maggie, but for the feeling he got when he was near her, like he belonged somewhere without having to earn it. The cafe had no glitz. No flashing stock reports. Just a rhythm of ordinary moments that slowly began to piece his soul back together. Then came February. Cold, cruel February, when grief liked to visit unannounced. That month marked 5 years since his brother Liam had died. They used to watch fireworks together. The last time they did, Liam had insisted they walk to the city square instead of taking their usual private ride. "Let's feel the cold, Nate," he'd said. "Let's be human for a night." But a drunk driver had other plans. Nathaniel blamed himself. For agreeing. For not pulling Liam back. For surviving. On the anniversary, Nathaniel disappeared. No texts. No visits. Maggie noticed. So did Lila. She asked why her new friend didn't come anymore. 3 days later, he returned. Exhausted. Unshaved. Silent. Maggie didn't question. She handed him cocoa, sat beside him, and whispered, "You don't have to carry it alone." And for the first time in 5 years, he told someone about Liam. About the guilt. The therapy he quit. The sleepless nights. Maggie held his hand under the table, and her silence spoke the kind of comfort that words couldn't touch. That night, he stayed till closing. He helped Lila brush her teeth upstairs in the small apartment above the cafe, where they lived. As she snuggled into her bunk bed, she asked if he would stay until morning. Like family does. Nathaniel froze. No one had said that word to him in years. From that night on, things changed. Maggie let down her guard slowly, like leaves in fall, beautiful, deliberate, fragile. Nathaniel learned that she had once been a literature teacher, loved poetry, and used to write lullabies when she was pregnant. Her husband had abandoned her before Lila's first birthday, leaving her to raise their daughter and care for her father until his passing. She didn't resent her life, though it had hurt her. Instead, she wore her pain like armor, quiet, honest, and unpolished. In March, Nathaniel bought a small used piano and had it delivered secretly to the cafe. When Maggie walked in and saw it, she gasped. "How? Why?" He shrugged. "I remember you said your dad used to play." She placed her fingers on the keys. For a moment, she was that younger version of herself, fearless, full of hope. And when she played, even the regulars went silent. He didn't kiss her then. Not yet. He just sat nearby, watching, breathing. But the kiss came. Months later. During a thunderstorm, when the cafe lost power. He was holding a lantern. She was laughing, hair wet from running out to cover chairs on the patio. She turned to him in the glow of flickering candlelight, and without planning, without overthinking, he leaned in. And she didn't pull away. It wasn't a movie kiss. It was real, gentle, tired, hungry for safety. The next morning, Lila ran into the kitchen and screamed, "Did you kiss my mommy?" causing Maggie to spill coffee and Nathaniel to nearly choke on toast. They became a family in all the quiet ways that matter. Nathaniel began phasing out of daily company operations. He appointed a new COO, someone he trusted. He sold 2 of his 3 properties. He invested instead in local shelters and community kitchens, many under Maggie's recommendations. One day, while looking through old journals, Maggie found a poem her father wrote titled, "A Home for the Lonely." She cried when she read it. Nathaniel framed it, and it now hangs above the cafe's fireplace. By the next New Year's Eve, the park was brighter. Cleaner. The cafe was hosting a free community dinner. Nathaniel gave a short speech, not as a CEO, but as a man who'd been saved by a little girl's question. As the fireworks boomed in the sky, Lila sat on his shoulders and yelled, "I'm not just watching the sky, I'm watching my future." And Nathaniel, arms around Maggie, whispered,